All right. Thank you so much for being here on a beautiful day in San Diego. I want to thank our Executive Director, Khadija Alam, our Chair of our Commission, Jason Pigu, and the commissioners, as well as everyone else for joining us on this beautiful day in sunny San Diego. I did part of my medical training. I'm a cancer surgeon, and I did part of my medical training in Southern California. And I almost got lured to UC San Diego at the hospital because the chair of the urology department was a member at La Jolla Country Club. And I can tell you, La Jolla is a beautiful place to be at. I also have an affinity for the San Diego Zoo. I serve on the board of trustees for the Sacramento Zoo. And the San Diego Zoo is a real crown jewel in this area, or in the United States for that matter. As I mentioned, my name is Dr. David Yee. I'm a sixth generation, actually, Californian. My ancestors came during the gold rush, and I loved hearing the deputy treasurer's story about his ancestors also building the railroad. But my ancestor on my mom's side, my great-great-grandfather, Lee Ming Young, was a railroad worker. And so I love the story about them joining the Transcontinental Railroad. I mean, that really transformed California. It was like the linking of the internet, which has transformed the world. But back then in the 1860s, that made an incredible transformation for our country. I also, I'm a cancer surgeon at Sutter Health and serve on the board of directors of Sutter Medical Group at Sutter Health. And I also serve as an associate dean of California North State University College of Medicine. I'm involved in the commission. It's really been a real honor being on the commission. I serve to act as a sounding board on healthcare issues, in particular, ethnic disparities in cancer screening and cancer survival in the AAPI community. I know we've highlighted the Female Asian Never Smoker Study, which was why Asian American women were getting lung cancer, but they never smoked. And so those are things that are really important to me as a cancer surgeon on the commission. So it's been a real honor. But I want to move along and let you know how proud I am to open up the first panel of our premier economic policy summit. Today's conversation will dig in to how California is anchoring the West, advancing global trade, deepening Pacific partnerships, and navigating the complexities of tariffs and international markets. In my mind, our AAPI Economic Policy Summit is sort of like APEC. I don't know if you remembered APEC a couple of years ago, but this reminds me so much of that wonderful summit in San Francisco. We're joined by a remarkable group of leaders. Our moderator, Commissioner Tahra, Goraya, and President and CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, whose career has been defined by building coalitions and advancing equity in both policy and practice. Thank you for joining us from Monterey, another beautiful city. I'm also pleased to introduce Margaret Wong, who is our families have known each other for quite some time. She's the president and CEO of McWong International. She's very dynamic, has done a number of interviews. I remember seeing an interview of her recently, or it was a few years ago on CBS News or something, but she talked about her passion and how much she enjoyed continuing to build and to partner with the Far East in terms of forging business partnerships across the Pacific, but she has decades of experience. And then I'm pleased to introduce Maria Honorado, the Associate Deputy Director at GoBiz, who plays a critical role in shaping California's international trade and economic development strategy. And then I'm also really pleased to introduce a former commissioner, a dear friend, California State Assembly member, Darshana Patel, a scientist. I remember at our last policy summit, she shared some of her of her background. And it's a loss to medicine, I must say. It's a loss to medicine, but it's a gain for public service. But she represents District 76, a dedicated legislator committed to inclusive prosperity and global engagement. Together, they will explore how California's global trade strategy, driven by innovation and strengthened by AAPI leadership, creates opportunity, resilience, and growth for all Californians. Please join me in welcoming our distinguished guests.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's a gorgeous day, and I know super distracting because it is so gorgeous, and we all want to turn around and look outside. What a beautiful place to be in, and it's a pleasure to be here. Again, Tahra, Goraya. I'm happy to be joined by these amazing rock stars. Check them out. I'm so... Dr. Yu, thank you for the wonderful introduction, and Dr. Neufeld and the Chief Deputy Treasurer. Everybody's remarks this morning have been very inspiring, and our president of our commission, Jason Pagiao, and of course our executive director, our fearless leader, keeping us all together and sane and focused on the impact that our community is making. We didn't overnight and magically become the 4th largest economy in the world. It is because of our diversity, the beauty of who we are as a state of California and all the contributions. And I'm very happy to kick off the first panel with this amazing rock star of women power up here. Give them another round of applause. I've had the pleasure to know at least 2 of our 3 panelists. I just met Ms. Wong this morning, and I'm very just impressed by your background. You are definitely one of those fearless trailblazers and leaders that we all aspire to be. And thank you for your leadership in the private industry, and especially partnering with government to really also showcase the trade potential. That said, we're going to kick off the first question with you. And I want to know, I'm aging now. I know it happens, and it happens quite suddenly. At least for me, it did. I'm like, whoa. Okay, that said, so I'm going to start with the first question with Margaret, and that is from your experience in the Trans-Pacific trade, and you've been very instrumental for the state trade. What lessons or strategies would you share with the AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander entrepreneurs in this room and others watching, looking to expand globally? And how has California's role as a partner supported that journey, given what you have done in the greater Sacramento area?
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm very honored to be here today. I actually flew from Sacramento this morning and trying to fly to Hong Kong tonight. So, very honored to be here. And first of all, before I answer the question, I want to say that I have been in business trade with China for over 40 years. When we first started, we used telex machines. So I just want to know that's really dinosaur time. And I am somebody who's boots on the ground and every day doing buy low, sell high. And I guess that every business is buy low, sell high, and that's what the business I'm in. So I've been doing business in China, and now we are doing business with Singapore, with Vietnam, with Thailand, with Hong Kong also. And I have to say that right now we're having a tsunami in terms of global trade. But I'm still very positive. I think that the tariff situation and the administration rules changes, it really put us into a very interesting situation. And I think that one very important thing in the last year, the tremendous amount of supply changes. There's a lot of activities, a lot of movement in Asia. Moving from China to Vietnam, moving from China, Hong Kong to Singapore to Thailand. And we're just chasing after all these supply changes, which is very interesting because to mitigate, the tariff. India, 50%, China, 55%, and Vietnam, 20%, and go on and on. We just follow wherever is cheaper, then we're going to go. So I think that meanwhile, there's a lot of human resources students, personnel, experts are moving when the supply chain, move. So, I'm sure that you know that a lot of students are not able to come here, unfortunately. Getting visas is very difficult. Getting H-1B is very difficult. So there's a lot of shift of talents. And fortunately, a lot of the talents still stayed in, stayed in Asia. I'll just give you an example that I graduated from Hong Kong University, and university is just ranked number 17 in the whole, world, and they recruitment is over 40%. And Singapore University also. So there's a lot of shift. And on top of that is financial. Money is shifting too. And Hong Kong just become the number one IPO in the world. Why? Because all the money starting, instead of coming to here, it goes to Hong Kong. They go IPO. And it's good or bad, it's just hurting our economy. This is going to be continue to be like this. So I have to say that we're just watching, and these are all the things that's moving. It's a moving target that in our business, we just have to be able to follow. So, in order to say, hey, what are we going to do? I think there are three things. Number one, we have to start thinking about made in America. We can't avoid thinking about made in America. No matter how much it costs, we have to think about made in America. We also have to make sure that we would do foreign direct investment. We attract foreign direct investment into the United States, but we also have to think about our investment in overseas. I mean, this is something that we have to follow. And thirdly, I always believe that, the people like us, who's really, doing business every day have to get involved with more public and private partnership. We have to work with legislators. We have to work with government because they need to hear us. They need to understand what we are. This is not something stable. This is a moving target that if we don't keep up with it, we're going to be at a loss. So, but again, I'm very optimistic. It's just that, when a tsunami comes and you just have to take care of it, when the sun comes and you just go forward. So I'm not negative. It's just that it's something that we need to be very observative on that.
Thank you, Margaret. I think that's a perfect segue to Maria, who is in the Governor's Office of Business, and you spoke of public-private partnerships. California is number one in creating, generating jobs, and we don't focus on just one industry at all in California. How's California, just building off of what Margaret was talking about, how's California helping businesses navigate the federal trade uncertainties and the tariffs, and while keeping the economy competitive? And what are some of the opportunities for global companies in California? And I know we first met when we were doing the USA Select a couple of years back, and how important foreign direct investments are. So building off of that, we'd love to hear what GoBiz is working on.
Great question. Thank you. And it's such a pleasure to be here. So I'm the Associate Deputy Director for Industry Engagement at GoBiz, which is the California Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development. It is a mouthful, but it kind of speaks to the fact that we do a variety of different things. And my portfolio covers a couple different areas. One is supporting foreign investment attraction, so helping international businesses set up shop in California. We are very proud to be the number one U.S. state for jobs supported by international businesses. That footprint is driving innovation and creating jobs in every community in California, and it's incredibly valuable to us. What we hear from those international businesses as well is that the people-to-people ties that they have with Californians who may have connections to the entire rest of the world, it really drives that investment. I also work with California businesses to support them in growing, creating jobs, and navigating uncertainty. So to your question, Tahra, it is a very uncertain moment, and it's really something that the Newsom administration has sought to emphasize on the global stage. California aims to remain a stable and reliable trading partner. Global trade is a huge portion of our GDP. Let me get the number right. I think it's $675 billion in two-way trade in the state. And the uncertainty that we're seeing right now globally, we hear every day that uncertainty is what's incredibly challenging for California businesses, for California employers, and for the very complex supply chains that we have here. So one theme, for example, has been California manufacturers that are doing high value, advanced manufacturing here in the United States, using inputs that are imported from somewhere else in the world, are now not able to operate anymore given the uncertainty and instability in the trading environment. So it's an area that we are paying very close attention to. It's also an area that states do not have any ability to influence. Federal trade policy is completely owned by the federal government. That being said, Governor Newsom did put forward a lawsuit, which is going to be heard by the Supreme Court early next month, related to the tariffs and the instability that we're seeing. So our job at GoBiz is really to hear from California employers and to uplift that this economy, as has been said before and will be said, I hope, many times, is the fourth largest in the world. It's an incredible achievement. And we are proving in this state that our diversity is our strength. 26% of Californians are foreign born. 39% of entrepreneurs in California are foreign born. The ties that our state has to the global community and the global economy are fueling the rocket fuel of this incredible economy. And that's something that we are very proud of in our state, and something we want to continue to uplift by supporting our small business owners, by working with international companies around the world that continue to see the promise and the opportunity that we have in this state that's unmatched anywhere else.
Thanks, Maria. Shifting to policy and our legislators and getting a legislative perspective, Assemblymember Darshana Patel, how is the state helping businesses navigate federal trade shifts and these uncertainties, and while maintaining a strong international partnership and all that we've talked about before? Like, what is a legislator voice there, and what is a legislature trying to shape?
Well, thank you for that question. It is a huge question. As a freshman legislator, I've been digging right in. I serve on the several committees, including all three education committees, health committee, as well as the economic development, growth, and household impact committee. And it was through that committee that we were able to host in San Diego at San Marcos State, excellent partner, by the way. We were able to host a roundtable discussion for API business owners. So at the state level, we're doing any number of things. We started our legislative session, as mentioned before, with funding Attorney General Rob Bonta's office with $25 million extra to pursue litigation against federal actions that harm California and that harm California's economy. We do feel that in this administration, there seems to be targeting of California's values and California's economy. And so we're doing everything in our power as a state legislature to ensure that California continues to thrive and Californians continue to thrive. And that's in every sector of the economy. So our first action was to make sure that Attorney General Bonta's office was given the resources that they needed to push back against things like the tariffs. What we know, my dad was a small business owner, so he was able to get part of the slice of the American dream, like many of us, through opening a small business. And what we've seen over the years is that free market economy is what helps these smaller businesses thrive. A solid public education system provides opportunities to our immigrant communities to access a slice of that American dream. And those students that get educated in California, that are able to find access to higher education in California, they stay right here in California. So we're making sure our policies are focused towards keeping Californians safe and working closely with our governor's office to make sure we're giving them the tools and resources they need through budget to make sure we can continue to support those Californian values. So in this policies or this summit that we had with the EDGI committee, we were able to hear directly from some of our business owners. And we were able to take some of those ideas back with us so that we can continue to push policies forward that will help our businesses. So we do work closely with GoBiz, and we do work closely with the small SBDC and STEP. And we help our community members liaise with those state agencies so they get the resources they need. And of course, there are still gaps. We know that there are still language barriers. California's complex regulatory environment. I think there's probably not a single soul here who hasn't heard things like overregulation and complex regulatory environment. We are taking a close look at that as well. If you look at the record for this year's cycle in the session, I think there were 39 bills that were tagged as job killers. We were able to block 38 of them. So you have a class of legislators right now that are representing you in Sacramento that are really, really sensitive to what is going on the ground. We can't stop everything the federal government is doing. We can't backfill every single pot of money that's being taken away from us. But we can start to tackle some of the things that are slowing down our own ability to thrive here in California. And you better bet that this freshman legislator is paying attention, as well as all of my colleagues. We're gonna make sure that we can keep our ears open. We wanna hear your ideas. We want to be able to go back to our local communities and tell them, we took your ideas to Sacramento and we made that a reality. And you can see some of that in supporting manufacturing. We had a budget trailer bill that is allowing for development of manufacturing facilities. So we're looking at ways to goose the system a little bit. And of course, open to lots of ideas. So feel free to be in touch with your assembly member or your senator.
And thank you for that. And we do need more of that sort of passion and excitement and advocacy in our capital. So thank you for being our freshman legislator. And I'm sure you'll be doing amazing things in the future. I do want to know that I'm going to ask about one or two more questions of each of our panelists that we would also like to hear from you. So we will open it up for Q&A a few minutes at the end. So you may want to think about what you would like to ask these amazing rock stars of a panel. So just want to flag that. I'm not sure if I mentioned at the top of our panel that we will be opening it up for Q&A. So you may want to think about that. Going back to Margaret, what successfully has, how to rephrase this? What could you share as practical tips or best practices as you've done, had an illustrious 40-year career doing many wonderful things in this Trans-Pacific trade? And what would you really recommend, especially during these federal, uncertain times for some of our businesses? What has worked in the past for you? What do you recommend in terms of just trying to navigate this uncertainty? How do we stay positive, as you mentioned earlier?
Well, first of all, I always say the world is getting smaller, meaning that through technology, we really can reach the rest of the world so much easier. And California is the gateway to Asia. I mean, we are the closest. I mean, look at the diversity, how close we are to Asia. If anybody want to be a winner on this, it will be state of California. So I think that number one, there's a lot of issues, geopolitical issues, and there's nothing we can control. But at least we have to think positive. We have to follow. I say follow the wind, follow the sun, and be positive to work with your Asian partners. Now, I have since the last couple of years, I have a lot of clients say, stay away from them. Don't work with them. It's dangerous. It's toxic. But I just don't see how it can be toxic because the world is getting smaller. We need Asia and Asia need us. I mean, this is a very simple demand and supply. We need each other. We need their market. We need their supply. They need our market. They need our supply. So why not work together? I mean, simple formula. So I would say stay positive. Continue to work with Asia. And I just pop, I think positive because I think eventually we will settle this problem. And again, work with the people. I always say peoples to peoples. A lot of the media is talking about some of the horrifying story. It's not that bad. I mean, it's just I like to have the young generation, the next generation, to get more involved with their next generation because we need each other to know each other more. I mean, we adults, maybe we're already stuck in our mind, but the next generation, they see things better. So I would highly encourage with a lot more exchanges, next generation youth exchanges, and also be able to expect, some of these significant impact is going to happen. But I think that it's just the technology is not going to go away. And we need to be able to appreciate what other people, other countries have the technology as much as we're open-minded in working with them. I'm just watching, what Navita is doing. It's very interesting. I'm just saying that maybe Meta, Navita, all these people, if they want to close the Asian market, they can't. But how are they going to do that? I mean, this is a very interesting moment. It's like a movie I'm watching. So I don't know whether I answer your question, but but all these steps that we in business, we have over 1,000 employees. They're going to continue to feed them by mouth. I can't stop. The only way to do it is just keep following it, and it will happen.
Absolutely. And I thank you for that. I think this is a really great reminder of even why the commission exists. Like this people-to-people sort of exchange and sharing of ideas, whether it's across the Pacific or within California or within the state, like we have to change and own that narrative also. We're part of the narrative changing and building bridges. And all of us, I think each of us here are those bridge builders. Thank you for that. I think that was super helpful, and I really appreciate that because it's a nice reminder that we also bear the responsibility of sharing that with the next generation. So Maria, going back to you, so building off of that, how do we continue advancing the global trade in Asia and across the Pacific, and what kind of resources does GoBiz have that we could leverage off of, including for the AAPI, I don't like saying the acronym, I should just say it out loud. Asian American Pacific Island, that flows a lot better off of my tongue. Owned firms expand internationally, but more importantly, what is GoBiz's role in that, and how can you help?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So like has been discussed, we know that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. To that end, our office has administered a grant program to help California small businesses export their products overseas. We know that companies that are plugged into global trade flows, that are exporting, are more resilient to domestic shocks and can have higher incomes, higher revenues than companies that do not export. So this program is designed to help small companies participate in, for example, global trade shows, many of which we have hosted in Asia, to help them build up their global customer base. And our goal with that is really to open the door to international trade as much as we can. We have participated, for example, in the Singapore Air Show, in Cosmoprof Hong Kong. We are planning to participate in Semicon Taiwan, in Medical Fair India. This is just a sampling, there's others. So to the small businesses in the room, please keep our office in mind if you're looking for support on how you can kind of open the door to trade with Asia. I also think that the people-to-people ties element that you mentioned is so foundational there. As the fourth largest economy in the world, in many ways, California plays an extremely outsized role on the world stage. And part of that is having close ties with our partners all over the world. We led a delegation to Japan in 2023 with our lieutenant governor and the director of our office, Dee Dee Myers. I don't think that's where Margaret and I first met, but we did spend a lot of time together on that trip. We brought 100 Californian business and government leaders to build up relationships, to talk about climate partnership, to open doors to business. It was a really fantastic conversation. APEC came up recently. I had the privilege of participating and representing the state at APEC, which was this incredible convening right here in our own backyard, bringing together heads of state from across the region. So our office really aims to keep those conversations open. And like I mentioned before, keep stability and reliability at the heart there. So we are in close conversation with the global consulates here in California, with trade offices, with our partners overseas all with the goal of supporting California's economy, supporting California's small businesses, and growing and having as great an impact as they can.
Thanks, Maria. And then Assemblymember, final question before we open it up to the audience. You did mention doing a series of listening sessions and trying to connect with business community. Can you share a little bit more deeply or dig a little bit deeper on some of the needs that were surfaced through the small businesses, and how does that feed back into state policy that you're looking to maybe introduce?
Thank you for that question, because at the end of the day, as a representative, I care deeply about the people that I represent here locally in San Diego. So just to calibrate everybody so you know where we're standing, we have about 9,100 small businesses that are API owned in San Diego. That's a substantial number. Those businesses employ something around 75,000 workers. Again, substantial number right here in San Diego County. And so when we're asking our small business owners, obviously there's going to be a huge variety of concerns that they're bringing forward. And these businesses aren't just in, parts of the economy that you might expect, food, restaurant industries, but they're kind of all over different sectors of the economy. But one thing kept getting brought up over and over again, and that was the ability to find the right kind of worker with the right kind of skill set. And so when we peeled back the layers on that issue, it came down to housing and affordability. And I know we've been talking about that a lot in California over the last several years. We know our housing construction is in arrears. We know that we can't keep up with the demand. But that challenge really needs to be tackled. And it has been. Affordability and housing has been at the center of the legislative work we've been doing in California over the last several years, but especially over this last cycle. And one thing in particular that I've been very concerned about as I look towards building a stable economy here in California is the pathway towards home ownership. And I think that pathway towards home ownership seems to be slipping out of our fingers. When I talk to younger generations, whether, I'm a Gen Xer, so when I talk about younger generations, that includes millennials, but also Gen Zers, they don't necessarily see a pathway towards home ownership. And when you think about stable communities and thus stable economies, it really is about the people. And if we're educating these wonderful generations of new talent, but they don't feel like they're attached to their community because they don't feel like they're permanent in their community, that creates a fundamental foundational level of instability and stress and anxiety. And so when we have this tsunami wave of, unpredictable economic situations, but we ourselves don't feel secure either, how are we going to be in a position to tackle these hardships that come towards us? So definitely housing is a huge factor. But on top of housing, there's just the standard stuff of the regulatory landscape. So we're very deeply appreciative that through the governor's office, there are these pathways towards accessing support. There was recent legislation to help our API businesses access government contracts in a more equitable kind of way. And we want to find other types of strategies to help our businesses thrive and really get some stable foundation in our economy. We're already doing it, but of course there's a lot more we can do. We know with our ports right now, they're struggling. So our small businesses have also highlighted that they're struggling with imports and being able to keep up with their inventory. Our clothiers that deal with ethnic clothing, they're struggling with inventory management because things are getting stuck. If we're not doing trade at robust levels, what happens there is there aren't empty containers for our goods to go abroad and for the goods from abroad to come back to supply our stores. So all kinds of different things that local businesses are struggling with, but I think fundamentally it's taking care of the people, and that means housing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. In my day job, as a CEO of the Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, we invest heavily in housing as an economic mobility strategy. And I would love to talk about housing. And is it really about homeownership or social housing or mixed use? But to your point, the legislature was able to move a lot in the last cycle. So it's really good to see. And we are the state trailblazing in some respects, but there's so much more to do. And without the ability to really house our labor, it is difficult to retain and recruit businesses oftentimes into various regions. So that's another, I think, a day-long discussion in of itself. So on that note, I will pause and see if there's any questions. So I look to Joseph, Khadija, LA. I think they may have some mics running in the room. So I will look to you all. Of course. I see a hand back there.
Thank you for hosting this. My name is Zeal. I'm from LA County. I do work in the social service field, but I also have ties as a council member in city and local politics. So my question is in regards to housing for our legislator here. Are there any discussions or talks about limiting or having some kind of restrictions or regulations with foreign conglomerates having real estate in California, as we see a substantial amount is being taken and flowing out of our economy to international, I guess. Yeah. So
Well, that is certainly a fascinating question. I interestingly was approached by a member of the state assembly, Alex Lee, member Lee, and he wanted to know whether I'd be open to supporting a bill. And he's definitely more on the progressive side than I am, but he's a lovely human. And so I said, okay, engage me. What are you talking about here? He said, look, I have this bill where we want to look at preventing any entity from owning more than 1,000 homes, foreign or domestic, right? And just to be really broad here. And I looked at him, I said, 1,000 homes? How'd you land on that number? I don't think an entity should own 500 homes, or why 100 homes? So it started me thinking along this process of what does home ownership look like? We're not talking about new construction or investing in new housing developments. We're talking about businesses that go into a neighborhood, a community, and they will start purchasing within a concentrated region, purchasing homes, and then artificially driving up the cost of housing. And he showed me this map, and it was very fascinating. So the lesson I learned in this one conversation with Assembly Member Lee was that visuals are great. He showed me that map. It was quite fascinating. But also that you need to be open, regardless from what position politically you might lie in, you might find opportunities for collaboration and things that are interesting, open the door towards policymaking. Unfortunately, his bill didn't make it very far. I had even offered to co-author with him because it was so fascinating to me, intriguing, because I do think it's part of one of the many facets of what's driving up the cost of housing and inventory of existing homes, putting those back on the market. He was also able to convince the California realtors to join on with him. So again, not necessarily common partners, but across aisle partners. So yes, there is discussion. We need to build political will to have those conversations. It's not there yet.
thank you.
Any hands on this side of the room? There's a hand.
Hi, thank you for being here and sharing your thoughts. My name is Viet Long. I'm a state worker. And yeah, I hear so much that California is sort of the fourth largest economy in the world, which is really great. At the same time, I believe our poverty rate is also very high, one of the highest in the US. So I was just curious on your thoughts, sort of how do you make sense of that just wide disparity between being such a successful economy in terms of GDP, but at the same time, sort of maybe poverty rates or kind of quality of life measures paint a contrasting picture. Just how do you, try to make sense of balancing that?
Thank you so much for that incredibly important question. And let me just acknowledge at the top that that is not an easy nut to crack. And it has been at the forefront of all of our minds. One tool among the many tools needed in our toolkit to have this discussion is earlier this year, the governor released the California Jobs First Economic Blueprint. It's the first economic strategy that the state of California has had in decades, and is paired with a career and workforce master plan that's aimed at ensuring all Californians can have access to high quality jobs. Our educational institutions are so foundational to that conversation, especially our community colleges, our CSUs, which are opening their doors to California's unparalleled talent pool. One conversation that I've been involved with in my portfolio, I'm focusing on 4 pilot sectors identified in that blueprint that the governor released, looking to tackle bottlenecks to job creation. Those sectors are semiconductors, life sciences, space, and agricultural technology. Now, across all of those, if you're anything like me, your first thought might have been, probably need a PhD to find opportunity there. That could not be farther from the truth. And that is a conversation we've really been looking to shout from the rooftops. I say here, on this functional roof, that there are opportunities in California in these incredibly high value industries for people of all educational backgrounds. Speaking to aerospace manufacturers is one great example. I've toured some incredible aerospace facilities, and they say the talent pool they're looking for is folks who have experience as nail technicians is a great talent pool for aerospace. It is meticulous and precise and requires an incredible degree of finesse. That's talent in California. That's talent that we can use to rocket ourselves into outer space. So again, there's no wave of a magic wand that can solve this wealth gap problem. Housing is, of course, so critical to the conversation, but we really want to talk about the California dream, that this is a land of opportunity, that this is a place where we are putting out tools in our toolkit for our educational institutions, for our employers to leverage the talent that we have here and ensure that they can find access to careers, valuable careers that they don't necessarily need a 4-year education to succeed in, and support a family, buy a home, and continue to live the California dream.
Let's thank our panelists. They have been absolutely amazing. Maria, Margaret, Darshana, thank you again for everybody.